John hit me up. He said, what are the expectations for Florida State now following their loss to Georgia Tech? Lower, John, lower. I feel like this is an 8 or a 9 win team. I don't feel like they're a playoff team. I don't think they'll play for the ACC championship right now. And so that means I've changed my feel on the team. But I think I got some of this stuff wrong the other night. Not necessarily the game. We saw the game. Florida State lost to Georgia Tech. But I think in the aftermath, my understanding of what happened and why some of us got misled, why the product on the field didn't match what we expected. I'm going to be honest, I think I was a little bit wrong on it. So I'm going to remind you what I said on the show the other night. And a lot of this particular clip that Colin's going to play in a second, it circulated around Twitter and Instagram. And apparently some folks took it the wrong way. So here's what I said, and then I'm going to explain to you why I think some of this may have been a little inaccurate. They were just regurgitating intel that people inside the program gave them. Now that is a little more alarming because that means folks inside Florida State thought they had the best defensive line in the country. Folks inside Florida State, folks who, do football for a living, those folks thought that they were going to dominate up front. Those folks thought that line of scrimmage and run game were going to be their bread and butter here. And if DJ's not great, if DJ can't stretch the field vertically, that's okay. We'll just rock fight this thing early, and then we'll give our offense time to round into form. And that is a little more alarming because that paints a picture of a coaching staff that may not have a firm grasp on what the football team was. So here's the deal. Mike Norvell does about as good a job as any coach in the country of giving open access to the media to Florida State practices. It's like the antithesis of what Mario's doing at Miami right now, where you have to get a court order to get in there. And so when I said that the other night, a lot of people took that to mean I was suggesting people who cover Florida State misled their subscribers or their readers or their viewers. Not that at all. What I was saying was I thought some of the information they had gotten from coaches was bad information. They had then passed that on, and it was kind of more on the people inside the program that had misled folks in the media. Well, I don't think that's what happened. I did a whole lot more digging on this today. Appreciate some folks reaching out to me, both on the media side and the NFL side. I think what happened is folks from the media side and folks from the NFL side made their way through Tallahassee throughout the fall, and they saw exactly what they saw. They saw a ton of talent. They saw a ton of speed. They saw size. They saw length. They saw athleticism. They saw explosiveness. They saw physical traits. And the good thing about talent is you got to have it. You got to have talent to win. But talent does not equal a football player. There's a lot more that goes into making a good football player than just having a lot of talent. And I think what folks saw was the same thing you and I would see. If we went to a Florida State practice down there, we would have seen freak shows. We would have seen aliens. We would have seen guys who look like maybe a handful of other programs in the country have in plentiful enough supply to put them on a 1 or 2 deep. And we would have said, this team right here is going to be serious again this year. And we would have thought that because your eyeballs look at humans of that size moving that fast, and your eyeballs say, who's beating them? Football players are beating them. Florida State has more talented players than Georgia Tech. Florida State didn't have better football players than Georgia Tech. That's the real problem. That's the real alarming part. Now, if they played again this week, Florida State may win the game. But they weren't ready. As a football team, the football players weren't ready to play football. And it's always a concern at any major program. Georgia, Florida State, everywhere. Do you count on that spear on the helmet to just get rolled out on the field and do the work for you? Now, Georgia, they don't deal with that because they got a culture there. At Bama, at Ohio State, at Michigan, they don't deal with that. I guarantee at Oregon they won't deal with that because there's a culture of competition there where folks understand that's not how it works. Do they have that at Florida State? Mixed results right now. Very mixed results. The mind matters a lot. The heart matters a lot. Talent matters, but talent doesn't make a football player. You mix that talent and you mix that brain and awareness and attentiveness to detail and how you use it, and you mix heart in. The heart's the hardest part. The heart, we would never, an evaluator at the NFL level would never be able to gauge heart by just probably going and watching a practice. You may get anecdotal stuff here and there, But you know what you got to have? You got to have 3rd and 3 over in Ireland against a team full of engineering majors. That's what you need. I don't say that pejoratively. I say that knowing full well Florida State should have an edge in all those categories over Georgia Tech, and they didn't, and it's their fault. It's no one else's. Georgia Tech, hats off for winning the game. That's on you, Florida State. That's on the football players or lack thereof at Florida State. Now, look, it doesn't have to be anything other than a lesson. Like, it could be that the team goes on to finish 11-1, and they go to Charlotte, and they atone for it all. They've still got the requisite talent to get the job done. Do they have the football players to get the job done? So I don't think it was folks down there got misled by intel as much as folks went to practice and saw with their own eyes how relatively loaded the roster still is, but their eyes deceived them because when it came time to play football games, guys were probably more cut out for the combine and Instagram than they were to go win a football game. And it's funny I mentioned Instagram because half of them have taken their profiles down. Bunch of alphas down there in Tallahassee right now.